this is Candy with Eyes to Jesus.blogspot.com, and welcome as we continue our study through the book of Daniel. Today we are up to Daniel chapter 10. Now, Daniel chapter 9 was set during the first year of Darius. All right, and then Daniel chapter 10 is set in the third year of Cyrus. And then Daniel chapter 11 is set back to the first year of Darius again. Now remember, Darius the Mede and Cyrus the Persian for a time ruled co-regently under the empire of the Medes and the Persians. So the first year of Darius, though, is going to be a few years before the third year of Cyrus. So Daniel chapter 9 was during the first year of Darius, where we learned about the 70 weeks. And then about how the final week is the 7-year tribulation. And that how the angel Gabriel, the messenger Gabriel, was sent to Daniel to reveal this truth to him. Now here in chapter 10, we fast forward a few years to the third year of the reign of King Cyrus the Persian. And Daniel has been very depressed or upset or in a state of mourning because he has been given so many visions. And there was a specific vision that he was given a few years prior, another specific vision during the first year of the reign of King Darius. And he just couldn't understand that vision, and he really wanted to know what that vision meant. So that's why chapter 10 we have the third year of Cyrus, and all of a sudden it backs up a few years in chapter 11 back to the first year of Darius the Mede, because it took a while. But Daniel finally got the revelation of that vision. He was given that vision a few years prior. It just kind of sat on the shelf, and then he was given this other vision during the reign of Darius, also in chapter 9. So he thought about that. Then he went back to that other vision that he was given. Then comes a few years later, he still doesn't understand that specific vision, and he has gone into a state of deep mourning. And so then we have another type of heavenly messenger or spirit being that then approaches Daniel and tells him here in chapter 10, okay, I've been sent to help you understand this other vision that you have been thinking about. And then that other vision will be in our next study when we go on to Daniel chapter 11. All right, so Daniel chapter 10, please follow along in your Bible. If you would like to use the same Bible translation as I am using the Young's Literal Translation. If you're looking for a good print copy of the Young's Literal Translation, I personally like the hardcover version put out by Greater Truth Publishers. And then I just reinforce the inside covers and the spine with some clear packing tape, the kind that has the kind of thread or reinforcement in it. And this has been holding together fabulously. All right, Daniel chapter 10, beginning with verse 1. In the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing is revealed to Daniel, whose name is Belteshazzar, and the thing is true, and the warfare is great, and he hath understood the thing, and hath understanding about the appearance. All right, and so remember Daniel's Babylonian name given to him by Nebuchadnezzar was, or during the time of Nebuchadnezzar, was Belteshazzar. All right, so he's being given now the understanding of this appearance. So this thing was revealed to Daniel during the third year of Cyrus, and he sees this warfare is great, and we're going to see some of this warfare, and it is a spiritual warfare. And now he is understanding this vision. This doesn't mean that this vision was originally given to him during this time frame. This vision was originally given to him a few years prior, as we'll see in the next chapter. But now we're up to, in this chapter, where he actually gets it now and understands it. And then he goes back and then he writes what he had saw a few years prior, which is chapter 11. Verse 2, in those days I, Daniel, have been mourning 3 weeks of days. Desirable bread I have not eaten, and flesh and wine hath not come into my mouth, and I have not anointed myself at all till the completion of 3 weeks of days. So he was in 3 weeks of fasting. He just did the bare minimum to take care of his body, and he wasn't eating. He was fasting. Verse 4. And in the 24th day of the first month, I have been by the side of the great river, that is Hiddekel. And I lift up mine eyes and look, and lo, and certain one clothed in linen. Now let's stop here. this doesn't say that this is an angel, but this is some type of spiritual being. This would be what people might call an alien. This is a living being that does not live on this earth, but has access to multiple other planets. All right, and in the Bible, what are aliens? We know as Christians who read and study the Word of God that aliens are spirit beings, like different classes of angels. We have the fallen angels and the non-fallen angels. We see the war that takes place between them in Revelation chapter 12, where we have real Star Wars. But we also have different classes of angels. There was the cherubim, there is the seraphim, there is the ones that are angels unawares, and who knows what else other types of classes we have. The pagan false god Quetzalcoatl, whose symbol is often a plus sign with a circle around it. He's known as a flying feathery serpent. So it sounds like Quetzalcoatl is based off of a fallen angel of the seraphim class. Seraphim being a flying type of serpent class of angel. All right, so here we're not given what type of class this spirit being is, but here we are being described a spirit being, and this is one that is not Gabriel, this is someone else, and this is a good guy. So you could call it an alien visitation, but this is a spirit being that has not fallen, that has been sent to Daniel, but not without some trials and tribulations himself on trying to get to him. Okay, so verse 5, and I lift up mine eyes and look, and lo, a certain one clothed in linen, and his loins girt about with pure gold of Uphaz. We're getting a description of this guy. Notice it's not calling him a messenger or an angel, but it is certain some type of spirit being. Verse 6, and his body as a beryl, and his face as, and beryl being the color, not the shape, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet as the aspect of bright brass, and the voice of his words as the voice of a multitude. And now some people say, well, gee, that sounds a lot like the description of Jesus there in the book of Revelation. And the voice sounds similar to how, one of the places or one of the ways that the voice of God is described. But we know that this isn't God himself, because as we keep on reading, we see that this spirit being had to go through battle to get there. So verse 7, and I have seen, I, Daniel, by myself, the appearance, and the men who have been with me have not seen the appearance, but a great trembling hath fallen on them, and they flee to be hidden. So the people with Daniel, when the spirit being showed up, they didn't see the spirit being's presence, but something really freaked them out, and they took off. Verse 8, and I have been left by myself, and I see this great appearance. And there hath been no power left in me, and my honor hath been turned in me to corruption. Yea, I have not retained power. He's getting really weak and kind of freaked out himself. Verse 9, and I hear the voice of his words. And when I hear the voice of his words, then I have been in a trance on my face, and my face is to the earth. Pretty much he fainted. Or he's about to faint. He's going down. He is on the ground. Verse 10, and lo, a hand hath come against me, and shaketh me on my knees and on the palms of my hand. And she saith unto me, Daniel, man greatly desired, attend to the words that I am speaking unto thee, and stand on thy station, for now I have been sent unto thee. And when he speaketh me this word, I have stood trembling. Because this wasn't God, so he shouldn't be on his face before him. So the spirit being stands him back up and says, listen, Daniel, I've been sent to tell you something. So this is a type of messenger from God, but the Hebrew word is not being used here in this chapter 10, indicating that this may be a different class of messenger or a different spirit being altogether, but was sent from God as a messenger nonetheless. Verse 12, and he saith unto me, do not fear, Daniel. So Daniel's got all of his trembling, and he's telling him, don't be afraid, it's okay. Do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst give thy heart to understand and to humble thyself before thy God, thy words have been heard, and I have come because of thy words. So when Daniel went into these 3 weeks of fasting, trying to figure out some more of these other visions that he's had from God over the years, well, when he went into those 3 weeks of fasting, from the very first day he was in his prayer and fasting for this, God heard his words. Verse 13, so the spirit being continues speaking, and he says, and the head of the kingdom of Persia is standing over against me 21 days. No, it's saying the head of the kingdom of Persia, not the king of Persia himself. This isn't Cyrus standing up against him. This is spiritual. So this spirit being is trying to get to Daniel to answer his prayer as he was sent from God to do. But a spirit being known as the head of the kingdom of Persia, says in verse 13, is standing over against me 21 days. And lo, Michael, first of the chief heads, hath come in to help me, and I have remained there near the kings of Persia. Kings, plural, not the king of Persia. We're talking about spiritual kings. These spiritual kings probably were spirit beings that were underneath the head of Persia. The head of Persia being the spirit being behind Persia. So, this spirit being is a good spirit being sent by God, who's trying to come to Daniel to answer Daniel's prayers. He gets delayed by 21 days, being held back by the head of the Persian Empire. So there are spiritual heads and principalities behind things. So let's stop here really quick and let's just jump over to Ephesians chapter 6. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So if we turn to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, it says, because we have not the wrestling with blood and flesh, but with the principalities, with the authorities, with the world rulers of the darkness of this age, with the spiritual things of the evil in the heavenly places. Now we jump back over here to Daniel, and we see here in verse 13 of chapter 10, and the head of the kingdom of Persia, that is a spiritual principality or power behind the kingdom of Persia, that spiritual being is standing over against me, the spiritual being sent by God to Daniel, 21 days. And lo, Michael, the first of the chief heads, he is a head spiritual being or angel who fights for God. And Michael is the head of the good army in Star Wars, the real Star Wars of Revelation chapter 12, where Michael and his unfallen angels fight against the dragon, being Satan, and the fallen angels. Read that in Revelation chapter 12. All right, hath come in to help me. So Michael came in to help the spirit being, and I have remained there near the kings of Persia. So these are the subordinate spirit powers underneath the head of Persia, which is the spirit power of Persia. Verse 14, and I have come to cause thee to understand that which doth happen to thy people in the latter end of the days, for yet the vision is after days. So he said, I've come to explain to you more of these visions that you have struggled with, and I need to let you know that these visions lead all the way up to the latter days. They are going to span through what's now our history and into our future where we are at. Verse 15, and when he speaketh with me about these things, I have set my face towards the earth, and have been silent. And lo, as a manner of the sons of men, he is striking against my lips. And I open my mouth, and I speak, and say unto him who is standing over against me, my Lord, lowercase l, this isn't the Lord, my Lord, by the appearance turned have been my pangs against me, and I have retained no power. So he's kind of weak in the knees and kind of falling forward again. He's still pretty freaked out. Verse 17, and how is the servant of this my Lord able to speak with this my Lord? As for me, henceforth there remaineth in me no power, yea, breath hath not been left in me. And he addeth and striketh against me as the appearance of a man, and strengtheneth me. This spirit being sent to Daniel by God is now strengthening Daniel. Remember, Daniel's been fasting for those 3 weeks. Combine that with he's pretty freaked out by the amazing appearance of this spirit being, and he's pretty weak. So the spirit being is now strengthening Daniel. So that's good. So with Daniel being strengthened, he's going to be able to relax, not be scared, and focus on the revelations that the spirit being will give to him, explaining to him the prophecies that he has been seeing now for years. Verse 19, and he saith, do not fear, O man greatly desired, peace to thee. Be strong, yea, be strong. And when he speaketh with me, I have strengthened myself. And I say, let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. And she saith, hast thou known why I have come unto thee? And now I turn back to fight with the head of Persia. Yea, I am going forth, and lo, the head of Javan hath come. So when he's done speaking with Daniel, he then returns to the battle, the spirit battle, where he will resume his fight with the spiritual principality behind the kingdom of Persia once again, called the head of Persia. And then what does it also say? I am going forth, and lo, the head of Javan hath come. If you recall, Javan is the ancient name for Greece. So now you're saying, oh, and the head of Greece has come. Well, that makes sense, because what kingdom comes after the kingdom of the Medes and Persians? The Grecian kingdom. So the head of Greece has come. So we see a head of the people of God being Michael, and we will see more about that when we get to Daniel chapter 12. And then we see that there are heads and principalities before every rulership, before every nation, before every kingdom on this earth. All right, why is that? Because the Bible tells us that this world in its fallen state is Satan's kingdom, and Satan lines up his own authorities and rulers over various divisions and kingdoms and areas of the world to help run Satan's kingdom for him. And that's why we have the middle tribulation rapture that happens at the seventh trumpet, when what happens? That's when Jesus begins to take his kingdom back. And that begins by taking his people off this earth. Because Christians, as children of God, this is not our world, the scriptures tell us. The scriptures tells us that we are the aliens, we are pilgrims, we are strangers, and we are ambassadors for Christ in this dark, fallen world. Jesus is the light, and as Christians, we are to let the light of Jesus Christ shine through us and be Christ-like. So this isn't our world. We are here on assignment. Christian, are you doing what the Lord has sent for you to do as your assignment, as an ambassador for Christ in this fallen, dark world? Verse 21, but I declare to thee that which is noted down in the writing of truth. And there is not one strengthening himself with me concerning these, except Michael, your head. We have spiritual battles right now. Who is behind everything in this world right now? If you follow the trail, read the scriptures, and look around us, but look with the eyes of truth, not with the eyes of what the talking heads want you to believe. And what do we see? Oh, we see certainly that there are certain Masonic, high Masonic groups and the Illuminati, but they answer to someone. And who do they answer to? Follow the trail. They answer to Vatican. Who does Vatican answer to? Who's pulling those strings? No one but Satan himself. And we just read here in chapter 10 that there are spirit beings that are heads, and they are under Satan, as we see in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, that these spirit beings, these fallen spirit beings, these, you could say, malevolent aliens, are behind these nations, the different nations of this world, as led by Satan. Meanwhile, we have the good aliens, being the spirit beings from God who have not fallen, such as Michael, the angel, leading armies. There's spiritual battle all around us. We don't often see with our physical eyes the spiritual battle going around us, but it rages strongly. And yes, this time in history, this date, in this area of time, the nation America is under a massive battle, and it is actually a spiritual battle. But we have lights in this country, ambassadors for Christ, who try to shine the light in the darkness. So while we are shining the light and revealing the truth, many avenues of our free speech has been blocked, and that's not going to stop the truth from coming out, because God always makes a way. And remember, Christians, we are in God's hand. We are in God's plan. This is not our world. We are here to do what God sent us to do. So Daniel chapter 10 is somewhat of a parenthetical chapter. It's an introductory chapter to Daniel chapter 11 and 12. Chapters 11 and 12 really go together. And this is where we really see that Daniel fully now starts to grasp these prophecies that he has been previously given, such as in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 9, and it all culminates in Daniel chapter 11. And when we read Daniel chapter 11, we're going to see history from our history books recorded right there. That was prophecy then, but it is now our history. And then we're going to go beyond that to where we are right now. And then it goes beyond that to what's coming up next. So it's going to be a really exciting ride. But for now, this concludes our study of Daniel chapter 10. Have a blessed day.